If you're looking for a large portable Bluetooth speaker that is very durable and it gets extremely loud, then any of Soundbox's speakers are good options. But right now, we have three different Soundboxes to choose from. Now, we have the Soundboks Gen 3, which was completely redesigned from its predecessor, and we also have the Soundboks Gen 4, which is a refined version of the Gen 3 that sounds better and it's more power efficient. And finally, there's the Soundboks Go, which is the most portable option here. So if you're trying to choose between any of these speakers, let's see which one's right for you. We're going to pricing. The Soundboks Gen 4 is the newest speaker here, and it has a retail price of $1,000. Then there's the Soundboks Gen 3, which is the oldest speaker here, and it now likes to go on sale for $850. And finally, there's the Soundboks Go, which has a retail price of $700. Now, all of these speakers are good options if you want something durable. Nonetheless, if you want to pick any of these speakers up, they'll be linked down below. And if you want to further support the channel, pick up a Big Head approved hat, linked down below. We've got trucker hats and snapbacks. By buying a hat, you help the unbiased and unsponsored videos coming, and it also helps us cover more products and produce more versus videos. Thank you to everyone who's already bought a hat, and look out for more designs coming soon. And also, please remember to hit that like button, and let's get subscribed. Now first, let's talk about the design of these speakers. Now first off, all of these speakers are very durable. They can all take a beating and they're all waterproof. But the main difference here is going to be their size. Now the Gen 4 and Gen 3 are the same size as one another, and taking these speakers on the go with you is relatively easy because they're both compact and they both have built-in carrying handles. But the main difference here is that the Gen 4 is a little heavier, weighing in at 35.5 pounds, whereas the Gen 3 weighs in at 34 pounds. But overall, this £1.5 difference isn't a big deal. But another difference is that with the Gen 4, it is much easier to remove its grill because all you have to do is just pull it out. Whereas with the Gen 3, you have to screw it out. But then there's the Soundboks Go. Now, the Soundboks Go is basically half the size of both of these speakers, and it weighs in at 20 pounds. Now, you can either carry the Soundboks Go with its built-in carrying handle, or you can get the optional shoulder strap. Overall, all of these speakers are super durable, and I feel that the Soundboks Gen 4 and Gen 3 are portable, especially when compared to similar box speakers out there. But with the Soundboks Go, this one is just much easier to take on the go with you because it's half as big and it weighs in at 20 pounds. Now, when it comes to battery life, all of these speakers have an advertised battery life of 40 hours while they're playing at 50% volume while in their stock EQs. And in general, 50% volume on all of these speakers is already a really good listening volume, and 50% volume on these speakers is like using the JBL Boombox 3 at 85% volume, and 40 hours is just very impressive. However, if you were to use these speakers at their max potential, at max volume, and while the Soundboks 4 is set to its stage EQ, and while the Soundboks Gen 3 is set to its bass plus EQ, then the Soundboks Gen 4 is going to have an advertised battery life of 6 hours, whereas the Soundboks 3 is going to have an advertised battery life of 3 hours. Now, the reason why the Soundboks 4 has a longer lasting battery than the Soundboks 3 is just because the Soundboks 4 is just more power efficient. Now, the Soundboks Go also has an advertised battery life of 6 hours if you use it while at its maximum potential. However, the Soundboks Go just doesn't get as loud or have as much bass as the Soundboks 4 or 3, specifically because it just has one less woofer to power. Nonetheless, with all of these speakers, you can always extend their battery lives if you use them with their stock EQs or if you use them with their more relaxed indoors EQs, which just doesn't get as loud or have as much bass. But with all of these speakers, they're all using the same swappable batteries. So if you have multiple batteries, you can easily swap them out and just keep the party going. Now, with all of these speakers, you can use them while they're plugged in and charging, but you shouldn't use them past 50% volume. But now let's talk about the ports on these speakers. Now, plainly said, the port on the Soundboks Go is rather disappointing. The Soundboks Go only has a 3.5mm audio jack, so that you can use it with a wired connection. Whereas with both the Soundboks 3 and Soundboks 4, they both have their 3.5mm audio jack, so you can use them with a wired connection, but they both also have an audio out jack, so you can always daisy chain any other speaker to any of these two speakers and get them to play in sync. And something that is completely missing on the Soundboks Go are the two XLR/quarter-inch inputs that you'll find on the control panel on both the Soundboks 3 and the Soundboks 4. So if you want, you can plug into microphones for karaoke, you can plug into guitars, or you can even plug in a mixer. So the port panel on both the Gen 3 and Gen 4 are identical, and it's a lot more robust than the ports that you'll find on the Soundboks Go. Personally, I really feel that the Soundboks Go should have had at least one XLR input. But something that is new, and this was something that wasn't available when I did my full review on the Soundboks 4, is that you can actually now adjust the EQ of your microphone through Soundboks app. Now, through Soundboks app, you can actually adjust the gain of your microphone, which could be good if you have a microphone with higher resistance to it. And you can also adjust the sound of the microphone itself through the app. And again, this is something that wasn't available when I did my full review on the Soundboks 4. This is something that just came out, but definitely this is something that is greatly appreciated because there are plenty of other speakers out there that you can plug in a microphone and they allow you to adjust the sound of your microphone to your liking. But with all of that out of the way, let's talk about sound. Regarding speaker setups, the Soundboks Go has a single frontward firing woofer with exhaust ports that shoot out the front, and it has a single frontward firing tweeter horn. But then there are the Soundboks 3 and Soundboks 4. Both of these speakers have dual frontward firing woofers with exhaust ports that shoot out the sides, and they both have a single frontward firing tweeter horn. And with both the Gen 3 and Gen 4, one woofer handles the lows and the other woofer handles the mid-lows. But now we're going to jump into the sound test. All of these speakers are playing at 75% volume. The Soundboks Gen 4 is playing while it's set to its stage EQ, and these other two speakers are using their bass plus EQs. And these are the EQ settings that you want to use if you want to get the most out of these speakers. They're going to get louder and they're going to have more bass.
Seems to circle the other. As you go, you remain a stranger to me, to you. But our pieces left uncovered. I'm thinking about four-leaf clovers. I've got composure, silver coin. You hold me, turn me over right now. Expect to forget about it. What does the breeze burns gold and smoke that you've stolen? Feels like it's my fortune that you've fallen. I was swimming with the sharks. I was swimming with the sharks. I can't tell you apart from them. You can't tell either. Will we love or fall in deeper? Tell me, darling, what is it you want? How the mind doesn't work like it used to. As I know I remain a danger to me, to you. Going altered by the moment, dear. And as the days turn idle, sweet on survival. I'm on fire, waiting your arrival. I never expect to be saved. All you could ask for never made its way into your eyes. Cold in the water, cold unless you keep in the disguise. I was swimming with the sharks. I was swimming with the sharks. It's out of my control. You set the play in motion. Couldn't be a bigger ocean. Tell me, darling, is this what you want? Oh, and all you could ask for never made its way into your eyes.
So first, I think we need to address max volume performance on these speakers. Now, with all of these speakers, they get extremely loud and they get impressively loud for their size as well. Now, both the Soundboks 3 and Soundboks 4 get louder and have more bass than the Soundboks Go, but that is to be expected because the Soundboks Go has one less woofer. But if we were to compare both the Soundboks 3 and Soundboks 4, even though on paper they get equally as loud as one another, I can't help but feel that the Soundboks 4 sounds louder than the Soundboks 3. And the reason why I feel the Soundboks 4 gets louder than the Soundboks 3 is going to come down to sound quality. One of the main upgrades on the Soundboks 4 from the Gen 3 is its refined sound and increased bass. So with the Soundboks 4, this speaker just sounds more balanced, it has more bass and just sounds fuller than the Gen 3. And since the Gen 4 sounds fuller at max volume, it just sounds louder than the Gen 3. Now don't get me wrong, the Soundboks 3 sounds good too, but it does like to lean towards a brighter sound signature. But finally, there's the Soundboks Go. Now, I will admit that when this speaker first came out, I wasn't super impressed with its sound quality because I felt that it sounded very bright and it had very little bass. But after a few firmware upgrades, that has changed, and thankfully the Soundboks Go sounds a lot more balanced than it did before, and it also has a decent amount of bass to it, even at lower volumes. Now, this speaker doesn't get as loud or have as much bass as the Soundboks Gen 4 or Gen 3, but it does get as loud or a little louder than, let's say, the JBL Partybox 310 or Sony XV800 while they're both playing at max volume and while they're plugged in. And this is especially impressive because the Soundboks Go is half their size. But simply said, the Soundboks 4 sounds a lot better than the Soundboks 3 because it sounds more balanced and it has more bass, and the Soundboks Go sounds a lot better than when it first came out. But with all of these speakers, you can always just go into Soundbox's app and you can select from a few pre-made EQs, or you can always just make your own so you can make this speaker sound however you want. But personally, I do like to just use the stage EQ on the Soundboks Gen 4 and the Bass Plus EQ on these other two soundboxes. But finally, let's talk about pairing these speakers up with other speakers. Now, with all of these speakers, you can wirelessly pair them up to either a Soundboks 3, a Soundboks 4, or to a Soundboks Go. And you can have up to 5 speakers wirelessly connected to one another, which I personally feel is plenty. And through Soundbox's app, you can go in and you can choose which channel each speaker plays. Now, personally, since I do have a Soundboks Go and a Soundboks 3 and a Soundboks 4, personally, I make the Soundboks Go the center channel, but I make the 3 and the 4 the left and the right channel. But more importantly, you can always get any two soundboxes together and you can get them to play in left and right stereo mode. But also, like I mentioned earlier, both the Gen 3 and Gen 4 have an audio out jack, so you can always daisy chain them to any other speaker, regardless of size or brand, and get them to play in sync. And personally, I do feel that the Soundboks Go should have had an audio out jack as well, and I also feel that the Soundboks Go should have had at least one XLR port. But with all that being said, if you're trying to choose between any of these speakers, then here's my breakdown. It is very easy for me to recommend the Soundboks 4 over the Soundboks 3, because the Soundboks 4 sounds better because it sounds more balanced, it has more bass, and it sounds fuller. And it's also more power efficient, so you can keep the party going for longer. And then there's the Soundboks Go. This speaker sounds a lot better than from when it first came out. Now, even though it doesn't get as loud or have as much bass as the Gen 3 or Gen 4, the Soundboks Go gets as loud as, let's say, your JBL Partybox 310, but while being half its size and weighing half as much as well. All of Soundbox's speakers are portable, but the Soundboks Go just makes taking your speaker on the go with you a lot easier. If you made it this far, I guess you enjoyed the video, so hit the like button and get subscribed. If you want to pick any of the products up, they'll be linked down below. And if you want to further support the channel, check out the merch. I made some shirts and hoodies that look and feel great. And you know I can be very particular, so I'll only slap my name on something if I'm really proud of it.